There is a pool instructional video and a runout video included in this video, but this is going to be a little bit of a long intro while I tell a little story about a man named Jed. I started making these pool videos when I got old, and I started realizing that I had spent a lifetime with the mindset of doing nothing but taking and taking, or trying to take, from the pool world, and I hadn't contributed much of anything. Now, go to an open pro tournament and walk around in the parking lot and look at the numbers of legitimate pool players who are sleeping in their cars or digging up change for the vending machine to get something to eat. And I was in that situation, and I'm thinking to myself, well, surely there's a pool player in this town who owns a motel building and can comp these guys a couple of rooms so they don't have to sleep in their car. And surely there's a restaurant owner who happens to be a pool player who can give these guys a couple meals so they can eat. And so if everybody comes into this game with the mindset of taking and taking and taking, and it's fine to take, but when you don't give anything back, and everybody does this, where does that leave tomorrow's players? Pool is the third highest participation sport in the world, and it's nearly broke. It's pretty much broke, and that's because everybody's taking, and very few are actually giving back. So this became my way of giving back to the sport that I tried, that I went through the mindset unconsciously. I just didn't think about this stuff until I got older. It was taking. Pool has no money in it, but I'm going to take what it does have. We can't continue to do that. More players have to give just a little bit. If we all gave just a little bit back to the sport, tomorrow's players will be in a much better position to actually make a living doing something that they love to do, and they deserve that. This is the toughest game in the world, and it takes everything that you have to master it. So if you're going to do that and then still come to a dead end of not being able to eat or afford a motel room, and that's a tragedy. So I'm here to give a little bit back with these videos, and in the future, hopefully, I'll be able to give more back. That 4 ball down there is not tied up, but there's only one realistic pocket for that shot. The 2 balls here and the 3 balls here. The shot on the 1 ball is a finesse shot to keep the cue ball under control. There's some distance between the 1 ball and the pocket that it's going into. So while it kind of calls for a hard shot to get some momentum on that 1 ball, because you're hitting this very thin, so your first instinct is going to tell you that you're going to have to hit this harder than any other shots, just so the 1 ball can make it into the pocket. But it's not necessarily the case, and if you hit this hard, the cue ball is going to go down table and get away from you, and it's liable to go right into the 4-9, sending those balls anywhere and sending the cue ball anywhere. So you never want to let go of control of the cue ball. And so it goes all the way back to the start. This is a finesse shot. You don't have to hit it hard, but you do have to finesse it. And as long as you hit it good and on the right spot, the one ball will make it to the pocket. It might be a little shaky, but it will get there. We have to hold this up to about center table. You don't want to go any further than that. So practice this shot, although I'm putting extreme bottom on it. That bottom is gone by the time it gets to that shot. So the bottom is actually slowing down the momentum of the cue ball. And it rolls backwards right up to the point where it's about to hit the one. And then it's out of finesse, and it's only going to come off the rail at pretty much the speed that you need it to come off of to get back on that 2 ball. We're shooting the 2, and the 3 is here, the 4 is here, and the 5 is a little bit further down table right here. This is not really straight, and we have a right hand cut here, so we're just going to stun draw this back up table just a little bit to get the right angle on the 3 to play off the rail and get play the line on the 4, so we can shoot the 4 in the corner and just roll up on the 5. So we're shooting this with just a hair below center cue ball to stun it a little bit up table. The cue ball cannot go forward, it cannot come backwards, so it has to come off the opposite angle of the cut shot. It has to come up table just a little bit. It's that famous Z, that Z pattern here. I'm putting that top left on here, but I'm doing more rolling than stroking and hitting this relatively lightly. And I am flirting with the scratch there in the side pocket, but I'm aiming for an inch or below, or an inch or two below that side pocket. And if I do it right, I'll be in perfect line for the 4 ball, and the rest of this rack should be a gravy out. Yeah, I hit the tit and it rolled, an inch back up table. But there's good news here. I still have the line on the 4 ball, although it's a little more straighter in than I wanted it to be. You're just rolling up a little bit on the 4 ball to get the right angle on the 5 to bounce off that rail and come back up on this side of the 6. But you don't want to get straight in on the 6. You need an angle and to be right about here. Just roll it up softly. You don't want to hit this hard. You want to go ahead and scratch in the corner and just follow it straight into the pocket. And that's a good shot to practice. This straight top here, players have a habit of putting top left on this, and you don't want to put left on it because of the angle. You're going to go too far back up table, and you're going to be too far away from the 6 ball. And don't forget, you need an angle on that 6 because the 7 is over here, so you're going to have to use that rail to bounce off and get back on this 7 ball. And what do? I get straight in on the 6, just like I didn't want to do. I want it to be right about here on the 6 to give me a great angle to get back on the 7. But again, you don't want to get straight in on the 7 either. So you're not moving the cue ball as much as you think you are when you're, you're not quite going rail to rail, you're going center table to center table, and I'll explain that in a minute. This is a stun shot. I do have a little bit of an angle, so I'm forcing the cue ball to that right hand rail and bouncing off as hard as I can. So you have to shoot this shot very hard and very fast, harder than you normally would shoot any shot on the table, because you're forcing the cue ball to move toward center table. And there's no English here, just dead center ball and very hard. Let's go back to the 5 ball for a minute. And the proper position to shoot for on the 6 ball is about a diamond and a half off the right hand rail at the center of the table. So this would be the correct position to shoot for on the 6 ball. And then when shooting the 6 ball, the correct position to shoot for on the 7 ball would be a diamond and a half off the left hand rail at the center table. And this way it's easy to draw back and get on the 8 ball. So we often do this. When we see a ball in the position of the 6 ball, we just think, oh, we just need to get to that right hand rail behind the 6 ball and we'll be just fine. But it's just a lazy mental habit and a result of not thinking it through. So we get there and we're straight in on the 6 ball, and now how the hell are we going to get on the 7? And we're forced to shoot a stop shot on the 6 ball and take a really hard shot on the 7. And this is what we constantly do as non-pros, and it constantly gets us in trouble every single time we go out and play pool. And we wonder why we're not getting any better, and we're not getting any better because we're not thinking it through. If you want to get better, you're going to have to take the time to practice and to work on your weaknesses. And if this is one of your weaknesses, you're gonna have to get it together and start practicing how to think 9-ball. As you can see by the graphic, I'm just putting a hair or draw on this ball and just coming straight back just a couple inches. Now I could put top or top right on this and go down to that top rail and bounce off the rail and get much closer to the 8-ball. But at this point, my confidence is a little bit rattled because of how I played that 5-ball and the 6-ball, and you can see I'm too close to the rail now. That should be a diamond and a half toward the center of the table. And I'm not afraid of long shots, and I just, at this point, just want any shot on the 8-ball, and I'll take a long shot, because I know if I just stop this ball or draw it back a couple of inches, I have the right angle on the 8 to get to the 9. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm just forcing this cue ball with top hand English to that right hand side rail to bounce off and get on the left side of the 9. But as you'll see, I get a little too close to the 9 for comfort. Yeah, once again, you never want to come that close, especially to the object ball. You need a little bit of a margin for error, and that could have easily been a disaster.